Welcome, students. In today's lecture, we will get to know about a prominent prose writer of Augustan age, Jonathan Swift. First, I will give you some biographical details of the author, and then we will discuss his style and some of his major literary works. So now let's begin with some biographical details of the author Jonathan Swift. So he was born in Dublin on 13th of November 1667. His parents were English and his father died before he was born, and his mother was very poor. So Swift was compelled to accept some help from relatives. He studied at Kilkenny Grammar School and Trinity College, Dublin, and after graduation, his distant relative, Sir William Temple, gave him the position of private secretary, and in 1689 he became confidential secretary to Sir William Temple at Moor Park, Surrey, and there he spent 10 years of his life. In 1699, after Sir William Temple's death, he became Vicar of Larroca in Ireland. So, vicar is a clergyman appointed to act as priest of a parish. Here in Ireland, he faithfully did his church duties. Swift was a great power in politics also. First, he was on Whig side and then on the Tory side. Whig and Tory were two opposing political parties during 18th century England. Jonathan Swift was a good pamphleteer. So basically a pamphlet is a small booklet which contains some information or argument about a subject. And at that time it was a powerful political weapon, and Jonathan Swift had no equal at pamphlet writing. So these political pamphlets were used for political protest and camping. Then he became the Dean of St. Patrick's at Dublin in 1714. So now one important phase of his life was his relationship with Stella. So he had relationship with three women, and the most important of these was Esther Johnson, or Stella as he called her. He first met her at William Temple's when he was a young man and she hardly more than a child. Swift was passionately devoted to her, and her death in 1728 was a blow from which he never recovered. Jonathan Swift's life was one of the most tragic in our literary history because he had for many years suffered from attacks of a mysterious brain disease which made him the victim of fearful agony and even more fearful melancholia. In 1736, his mind began to give way, and little by little he lost his memory completely. He died in 1745, and when his will was opened, it was found that he had left all his property to found St. Patrick's Asylum for lunatics and incurables. It stands today as the most suggestive monument of his peculiar genius. Now let's briefly discuss his style of writing. So Jonathan Swift was one of the greatest English prose writers, and his style was simple, direct and colloquial. His special field was satire, and his favorite instrument was irony. Irony is art of saying one thing in order to convey another. Swift wrote Pindaric odes, which provoked John Dryden's remark, "Cousin Swift, you will never be a poet." So he was not that good in poetry, but he was a great satirist. Moving on, now let's talk about his major literary works. First is A Tale of a Tub, published in 1704. So it is an exposure of the weaknesses of three principal forms of religious belief of the Roman Church, the English Church, and the Calvinists. It was designed to defend the Protestant Church against the Church of Rome and Calvinists. Purpose is carried out under the form of an allegorical story. The principal figures in the story are the three brothers, Peter, Martin, and Jack, standing respectively for the Roman Church, the English Church, and the Calvinists. Next is Gulliver's Travel, published in 1726. It is a satire on mankind. Then The Battle of the Books, it was published in 1704. It was written in 1697 while he was staying with Sir William Temple, but it was published in 1704. Temple had written an essay on the comparative merits of ancient and modern learning, and Sir Temple took the side of ancients. The essay drew the censure of William Wotton and Richard Bentley, and after that, Swift composed a mock epic on the subject, and Battle of the Books was the outcome. So, Battle of the Book is an account of a battle between the books in St. James Library. Here, the battle is between army of ancients and the army of moderns. So the army of ancients includes Homer, Pindar, Aristotle, Plato, Aesop, and Temple is the commander of their allies. On the other side, army of moderns includes Duns, Scotus, Milton, Descartes, Hobbes, and Dryden. It also includes an incident of bee and spider. Here bee symbolizes ancients and the spider symbolizes moderns. At the end, issue is left undecided. So this story of the spider and the bee is prescribed in our syllabus, and we will start the explanation of the text in our next lecture. For today's lecture, that is all, and thank you so much for watching.